Hello and welcome to the Complete Lakers podcast. I'm Anthony Wilson, recording from Los Angeles, California. Joining me today in I don't know if we call this a comeback or what. I mean,
Historic return.
historic return. David Gowan is my first and foremost co-host in podcasting. We started together like what, 13 years ago? Well, you guys should know Gal. You guys are familiar with Galvez. I don't know. We're doing it, And what's up, Galvez? How you doing?
What's up, my brothers? Good to have you back.
Yeah, good to have you back, man. I'm gonna get right into it. I want to say something about LeBron because LeBron was in Lakers were in Cleveland yesterday. They got blown out, but the biggest story was just LeBron. People are saying, well, could that have been LeBron's last game in Cleveland? And the Cavaliers, they played a video tribute to him, I think during the first quarter, and he got kind of teary-eyed a little bit. Uh, what are your thoughts, Galvez? I mean, LeBron, he obviously has no trade clause. Doesn't seem like he wants to be traded, by the trade deadline. He doesn't have a contract for after next season. But then, he makes $50 million. And any team he would probably want to go to, like maybe the Cavs or the Knicks, they wouldn't have the money to, pay him that type of money. They could pay him the mid-level, something like that. Or maybe the Lakers would, do right by him and do a sign and trade. What's your general take on like LeBron and his future after this season?
Well, I think the cat's out of the bag when it comes to LeBron. Is he one of the top two or three greatest players of all time? Yes. Um, is he one of the great ambassadors of the game over the past 20 years? Yes. Um, but with that said, it seems like always behind the scenes, every time LeBron leaves a place or every time LeBron's at a place for X amount of years, there's always rumblings and there's always these issues that are behind the scenes. And so obviously there was that report last week about Genie and LeBron. And I think a lot of teams are kind of like, do we really want that? Right? Because LeBron is no longer a player where you could say, okay, he's, if we get LeBron, he's going to take us to the finals, right? LeBron at this point, he's at best what, second, third option,
Yeah,
depending on
second
the
at
team,
best,
right?
right? Yeah.
Depending on at best second, right?
Hmm.
But if you have two like superstars, then for sure he's third option, right?
Hmm.
And so, um, I just think, I don't, like you said, I don't think he wants to leave LA. And that's usually what happens when players come to LA, right? The sun, the glitz, the glamour, Hollywood. Uh, they said he just bought two houses in Brentwood back, like side by side, and he's building like one of the greatest houses in LA history. And so clearly he doesn't want to leave. Now, could he go to a team for his final season? I mean, you know, I could see that happening, but you know, it would have to be under like no team is going to bend over backwards for him anymore, and that could probably be a blow to his ego too. Like he might just stay with the Lakers just on that alone.
Yeah, I think as you said, I was going to say the same thing. That he came. I mean, LeBron came here for a reason, and it wasn't basketball reasons, right? He came here because he wanted to live in
Well,
L.A.
at least basketball was secondary.
Right. He wanted to live in L.A. He wanted to make movies and work on his media company, which kind of has like seemingly kind of fallen to the wayside. It hasn't worked out probably the way he hoped it would. And then number three, he wanted to play for a legacy franchise and have his name be attached to a legacy franchise. And I think he wanted to retire as a Laker. So why would he really want to leave and go back to Cleveland when he left Cleveland in the first place? Because he wanted to come to the Lakers, right? And then of course, I mean, what happened
And
was
he already won, and he took them that title that they needed.
right. So what? I
So
mean,
there's really no reason for him to go back.
right. Other than just he's kind of soured on the Lakers playing for like just how things have gone with the timeline getting moved up. They traded AD, they brought in Luca, and they've kind of moved on from LeBron, and Luca is the priority now. And then like the genie thing that came out, basically, so it was kind of like it's left sort of a sour taste in his mouth. And then they didn't offer him an extension, was the report. But it seemed I've heard like Windhurst say and Sean say that they maybe would, I guess, be willing to work with him if he would take a lower salary next year, and.
Yeah.
But like I said, he don't. I don't think he really. If he had it his way, 80 would still be here probably, and they'd be like,
With Luca.
yeah, they would still be like having to like kind of like cater to LeBron, but that didn't change. But he don't. I mean, he don't want to go back, and he wants to continue to be able to, when the game is over here, he goes to whatever he in Beverly Hills or Brentwood, where you know what? I mean, like Cleveland is home to him, and he has a home there, but he really don't want to go back to that. That's why he came here in the first place, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure, what's her name, Savannah, she loves being in Hollywood. I'm
Mhm.
sure daughter, they love being in Hollywood, especially this past um week. It
Mhm.
was like below 7 over in the Midwest,
Mhm.
and over here it's 80 degrees, literally,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
so it's little things like that, especially because he has a lot of like off the court ambitions.
Mhm.
Say what you will, unless it's New York, you know, if you have a lot of off the court ambitions, LA and New York, you almost have to be there.
Mhm.
The only superstar really in the history of sports, I mean, I wouldn't say the history of sport, but I would say in the last, let's say, 30 years,
Mhm.
right? The only real player ever that was bigger than life that was not in LA or New York was Michael Jordan,
Mhm.
you know? And so LeBron pretty much, um, I think he wants to stay in LA.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, he does, it's a player option. So if the Lakers want him to take a pay cut and he doesn't, he could just opt in. Because
But it's
what,
not a player
okay,
option though, is it?
I believe, yeah, LeBron ain't never going to sign no team option.
But he doesn't have a player option for this summer. The contract is just over.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so yes, you're right. Okay, so yeah, that changes it because that was this past year that he had the player option, right?
He opted in already. He opted in this past summer, and now
Yes, yes. Okay, so yeah, I mean, what other team is gonna give him 30, 40 mil unless it's some cheap ass team that's just trying to sell tickets, but it's not like he would go there,
all right.
right? So it's just LeBron is kind of stuck.
Yeah.
The Lakers have no reason to give in to his demands. And it wouldn't be smart, you know, because we have to, worry about Luca in the future.
Mhm.
Austin Reeves got to get paid.
Mhm. Yeah. So we'll just have to see what ends up happening. Now elsewhere, it's becoming increasingly clear that Giannis wants out in Milwaukee. Giannis doesn't want to come straight out and say I've demanded a trade or I've requested a trade, but I mean everybody knows that it is coming to that. The trade deadline is February 5th. I've said before, I don't think that Giannis can really carry a team anymore. He's come to me like in the spot that Kevin Garnett was in at the end of his run in Minnesota, where he had carried the team for years, but then it just wasn't working anymore, and so it was time for a change of scenery. And KG went to Boston with Pierce and Ray Allen, and they were kind of like three equals, and they won a title, had a lot of success there. But Giannis, people who think that Giannis is still someone who's gonna be the best player on the championship team, like he was with the Bucks in 2021, I believe that they're sadly mistaken. I think if he stays in the East, and goes to the Knicks maybe for Cat and whatever other pieces or something like that, yeah, because the East, especially this year, is wide open. But to me, there's no point in him coming to the West because the West is just too loaded, and he's just not that guy anymore. I haven't heard your thoughts. I don't think on it. What do you have to say?
How old is Giannis now?
Like 31, I
31?
think. Yeah.
Yeah. And unfortunately with Giannis, and I always I always like to pat myself on the back um, when I speak to you, about Blake Griffin.
Hmm.
And I said when Griffin was at his absolute peak, his absolute prime with the Clippers, Lob City,
Hmm.
and I said, Wilson, if this guy doesn't learn to play offense at a regular pace and not just rely surely on that on speed and athleticism, he's gonna flame out of the NBA.
Hmm.
And sure enough, once Griffin lost a step or two, and injuries started to pile up, he flamed out of the NBA, right?
Hmm.
And you can and say what you will, Wilson, might be controversial, but Griffin's bag was better than Giannis's, right?
His bag?
Yes.
That's a good question. I always thought Blake Griffin was
Like,
his, his game was kind of underrated because people used to act like all he did was dunk, but I feel like he was a good passer.
well, the highlights of the dunks outshined anything he ever did on the court. But let's just, for argument's sake, let's just say they're neck and neck, right?
Hmm.
Because it's not like it's a blasphemous statement either way, right?
Hmm.
We're not saying that Giannis is. Sorry, we're not. I'm not saying Griffin is a better player. I'm just saying his offensive bag was much greater than Giannis. So in 3 to 4 years, when Giannis is 34, he loses a step or two, just like Griffin does. What part of Giannis's game is going to be like, wow, this guy is a cornerstone? He really still can't shoot, even though he's been in the league for 10 plus years. He doesn't he doesn't have that type of game where you say, all right, here, Giannis, here's the ball, go, go win us the game.
Hmm.
Um, if you remember during that finals run, who was the closer?
Drew and Chris. I think it was.
It was Drew and Chris,
Uh,
right?
mhm.
It was, and he just didn't have, especially in the playoffs when the game really slows down, you're not really running up and down. You know, it was clear that he wasn't the closer. So to me, if I'm the Lakers, right? Because we're both Laker fans, of course, do I want Giannis on the team? 1,000,000%.
Mhm.
But I don't want to give up. I don't mind giving up Austin Reeves, but I don't want to give up Austin Reeves and all these draft picks and all this. I mean, do you think Luka and Giannis, just them two, are good enough to win in the West?
I think it would work just because it could work because Luca himself.
Remember, they won't have a lot of cap space to fill out the roster with good players, though.
Right. Well, Luca that might actually be a good thing because Luca's the type of guy who you really need just a bunch of like worker bees around him. Like you need a bunch of guys who just play hard, and you don't really want a bunch of guys who have to who need their own shot and stuff like that. So, and I think Giannis as a sort of like because his my thing with Giannis is I feel like his game because he don't shoot threes. I feel like he's kind of becoming like a fossil, kind of like Dwight Howard at a certain point, right? And and you feel even Joker started shooting threes, and Giannis won't. So that's kind of like holding back, like it was holding back Milwaukee's growth because the league is changing around him, but he's not changing with the league. But if you put him with Luca and you make Giannis just like this super duper somebody who could, I don't he'll catch lobs from him, and just kind of play off of Luca instead of having the ball. I mean, I think that could work. If it could be like the best possible version of like a Luca wingman, if Giannis just accepts that he's not going to have the
Yeah,
ball all the time, you know. And then you just put a bunch of, and then it's like it's so much production between those two, and then you put a bunch of guys that everybody else got to just shoot open threes and play defense and hustle basically. And I think it could possibly work. But see, like if he goes to New York, I said this before. The problem in New York is that Brunson is only 6'1", 6'2". Like it's only been a few guys and Brunson would have to be the lead engine because, like I said, I don't think Giannis is that guy anymore. You know, so you
yeah.
know,
But you don't think Brunson has proved that he can be the best player on the championship team?
well, look at last year. Brunson, as good as he is, most people would have said coming into that series that Brunson was the best player in the series, but he really wasn't. Halliburton. I mean, Halliburton, maybe not numbers wise, but impact wise, it's like if your best player is 6'2", and the other team's best player is 6'6", and they're at all comparable, then the team whose best player is 6'6" should probably win.
Yeah,
That's why.
but 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 comparing in today's NBA, at least, comparing Brunson to Halliburton is not a asinine statement because
Yeah.
the OKC was supposed to be all world last year,
Hmm.
and OKC took him to 7 games,
Hmm.
and they probably, I mean, if Tyrese doesn't get hurt, I mean, who knows? Maybe Indiana
Yeah, I
wins.
think Indiana would have won because it would have come
Yeah,
because NBA Indiana was a comeback kid. I think it would have come down to close because they stayed in the game.
yeah,
I think it would have come
yeah,
down close, and Indiana is so good at the end of the game. I think OKC would have cracked. And but yeah, I think it's not insult at all. Halliburton is. It sucks he got hurt because he's one of my favorites. He plays like the point guards played when we were coming up. He plays a pure point guard. He don't play looking for his shot all the time. He look for his shot like in crunch time, and the rest of the game, and then like in spots. And sometimes he'll get hot, but most part he's trying to get his teammates involved. That's the way, really the way you're supposed to play point guard. And so, yeah, but I think it would help a little. It would work better with Luca because Luca's 6'6". He's much bigger than Brunson.
yeah.
So
But yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely going to be interesting because obviously the Luca and AD trade kind of just happened out of nowhere. Nobody even expected it. So I think this is one of the biggest kind of trade scenarios and quite some. I mean, I'm trying to think. When was the last time we had a player of this caliber be involved in trade talks?
right, like a former two-time MVP, an NBA
Yeah,
Finals MVP, a champion, someone who's still averaging like he averaged like 30 points and 12 rebounds
yeah,
and 6 assists. You know,
yeah.
it's been a long time. You know, because guys
Hmm.
like I mean, at no point in history have most of the time guys like that they don't get traded. It's usually not a good idea, but the situation has just kind of come to a head here in Milwaukee, and it looks like something's gonna happen. If it don't happen by the trade deadline, it's gonna happen this summer for sure. You know, now
Yeah,
um, I wanted to say something about okay, so this Bill Belichick situation, right? Obviously, he didn't make the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. And it's like everybody's like, well, how is this possible? Bill Belichick is the greatest coach in NFL history. How did he not make the Hall of Fame on the first ballot? And then they say, but Bill Polian had something to do with it. Of course, Bill Polian was with the Colts when the Patriots and the Colts were rivals in the AFC. Um, obviously I think it's ridiculous that he didn't make the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. What I will say, I was listening to Colin Cowherd. He said his staff did some research, and so Vince Lombardi didn't make the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. Uh, Bill Walsh didn't make the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. Joe Gibbs didn't make the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. Walsh and Gibbs each have 3 Super Bowls. I'm not sure how many Lombardi has, but obviously the trophy is named after Lombardi. right? Then I know like Jimmy Johnson didn't make it. Bill Parcells didn't make it on the first ballot. You know, so it kind of just it I don't know for whatever reason I don't know why they do coaches like that, but he didn't get in, and it's an outrage, and the outrage has been so great that even like the committee itself, like the NFL, had to make a statement coming out about it. But what was your reaction when you saw the news that Belichick didn't make it on the first ballot?
Yeah, I mean, you know me. I used to hate the Patriots growing up. So if this would have happened 15 years ago, I would have been like, hell yes, I'm happy for that. But now that I'm older and I don't really care as much about that. I think it's a black eye on the National Football Hall of Fame committee, because it's like I think it's baseball, right? Where I think that's there's a sport where the voters purposely just won't vote you unanimous first ballot. I think it's baseball, where it's like
Hmm.
that's the stupidest rule ever. It's like, what a dumb unwritten rule.
They
Like,
say they say, well, if they I think they say like Babe Ruth didn't make it unanimous, so nobody's going to make it
yeah. So why would
unanimous.
exactly? And so now I get it. Bill Walsh and Joe Gibbs and all these guys, they were all world coaches, but this is Bill Belichick. He won 6 Super Bowls in modern NFL with free agency. I mean,
Hmm.
think about that. And so the fact that he didn't get in, now it's like by him not going in, you're basically saying no coach should ever be first ballot Hall of Fame,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Um, and then uh, it's just a black eye for them. Like I said, man. Um, what more does he have to do? Now I get it. Um, the Spygate and Deflategate, that definitely didn't help. But back then, like I said, I used to call them cheaters. I used to say, oh, their titles are tainted and things like that. But um, they were so minimal in his success. I feel like, you know, should he have done Spygate? Probably not. But if he doesn't do Spygate, they'll they still probably win the championship, which is crazy, you know. And so I think also with Bill is it's a he just ruffled a lot of feathers for being an asshole.
Hmm.
People just didn't like him. They said that's the reason why he felt like he had to go to North Carolina, because remember when he quit or did he leave the Patriots?
They, yeah, I don't know.
They mutually agreed,
But
right?
yeah, but basically they were done with him. You know.
Yeah. But if you think about it, when that happened, everybody was like, "Oh, Bill Belichick." Dude, who the hell wouldn't want Bill Belichick on their team? And the fact that nobody wanted him for almost 2 years, right?
Hmm.
And they still don't want him. It just goes to show that that he rubbed a lot of feathers the wrong way in the media and with other teams and other personnel, because it was Bill Belichick just didn't give a damn what you had to say, whether it was your way or the highway. He just didn't care.
Hmm.
And so, it's like, um, it wasn't like, if they really do want to say that Spygate was the reason, right? And Deflategate, it wasn't like it was the equivalent of Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens and A Rod doing steroids, you know?
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know if you saw Jimmy Johnson, he tweeted, I think yesterday. He said, hell, we all try to do a little Spygate.
Yeah.
We just didn't get caught.
Yeah.
And it's like, um, it's just, or it wasn't like how the Astros cheated the Dodgers in the World Series. You know,
Well,
they didn't have bugged mics on the opposing sidelines or things like that. But um,
I mean, I compare it. I do. I compare it to the Astros thing because to me, I never cared about the Astros what they were doing because I know that every team in baseball is trying to do that. In sports, every team is trying to get a competitive advantage however they can. Now, I think with the Patriots, like the Astros, they took it like a step further and they got caught, but also they were just like better at it than other people in a sense. But I think to me, that like Spygate is nonsense because like even Mike Shanahan said the same thing as Jimmy Johnson. He said we all tried to do that, we all, and they do that
Yeah,
now. People were saying even in college they were saying that Indiana knew the other team's plays. That's just part of the
yeah.
game. Every team is trying to see if they can steal the other team's signals. That's just part of the game. But yeah, I
It
think
just literally it takes away any credibility that these voters have.
yeah.
You know, it literally what they should do is because unfortunately they give these writers too much power, right? By
Mhm.
them having a vote, it should be only ex Hall of Famers and um it should just be where these guys were directly involved with the with the uh with the game, right? So for example, the morning that they announced it, right? I'm
Mhm.
listening to Sal Palantonio,
Mhm.
and they're like, Sal Palantonio, you got, very credible, very smart ESPN analyst that's been covering the NFL for years, right? Probably
Mhm.
long before we even started watching football.
Yeah.
Why the hell does he have a vote? He's just a writer, So imagine if this guy had a personal issue with Bill Belichick because Bill Belichick dissed him or was just a douchebag.
Mhm.
Why is this guy voting? You know,
Mhm.
there was what was it? I think it was. I want to say it was Barry Bonds didn't win a MVP one year because everybody hated him, and it was like a morality clause.
Mhm.
Like, why the hell should that matter if I'm MVP or not?
Yeah.
You know?
For sure, bro. Yeah, Bill Polian. If Bill Polian really had anything to do with that, he's a piece of garbage. He's old, and he said that he don't remember if he
Yeah.
voted for him.
But
He think he
it
did.
just it goes to show that um it goes to show that it's tainted because why does someone like that have a vote if he can't even remember if he voted for him?
Yeah. Why is he
And
voting
what's
for
crazy is,
Polian?
yeah, like 5-10 years from now, is Bill Polian going to be remembered for those great Colts teams? No, he's going to be remembered for not remember if he voted for Bill Belichick or not. You know,
That's
that's
his
like
legacy
saying,
now.
hey, who did you fucking vote for? You know, for president? I don't know. And the vote was like last week.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
vote Bill
know?
Polian. I mean, I didn't realize that he built also the Bills teams that made those four straight Super Bowls. He built them. He built the Carolina Panthers that made I think the conference championship like in their second year or something like that. So he did a lot. Then of course he built those Colts teams. He did a lot, but now this is what he'll be remembered for more than anything is this.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got one over on Belichick with the
The
elimination.
vote, the vote that was or wasn't.
Right. You know.
So I mean, it's just unfortunate. It sucks because what more could Bill Belichick have done?
Yeah.
Wait, you needed him to win 10 Super Bowls,
Yeah.
you know? And here's the thing. Here's the thing that's interesting. Somebody brought it up on ESPN. It makes perfect sense. If you are gonna hold up Bill Belichick to Spygate and Deflategate, right? Does that mean you're not gonna vote for Tom Brady? Because he was also, even though he probably wasn't directly involved,
Mhm.
well, Deflategate determined that he was.
Yeah.
But are you gonna hold that against him? Are you gonna say Tom Brady's not a first ballot Hall of Famer because of Deflategate?
Right. Michael Irvin said that he don't think they'll do Brady like that because Brady works with the media now. And so they're, he gets to butter them up and get on their good side.
And he was a nicer
He
guy,
was a
and
better
he was
person. Belichick is the all-time worst. Him and Popovich, all-time worst to the media.
and guess what? And guess what? They're both the greatest coaches of all time. So what
Yeah.
does that tell you?
Yeah.
Would you argue, real quick, because I still have a couple minutes, would you argue, without getting into too many X's and O's or could you argue that Popovich was a better coach, actual coach, than Phil Jackson?
I would never say that, just because it's hard to compare because they had different, like, Phil. Tim Duncan is as great, damn near, as anybody other than Michael Jordan, right? But the first team that, like, never, like, he Tim Duncan didn't play with us, like, David Robinson that Duncan played with was like an older David Robinson. He didn't get to play with a prime Scottie Pippen. He didn't get to, and Pop didn't get to coach a Shaq and Kobe at the same time or anything like that. But I think that Phil Jackson was someone who he always got the most out of his teams, and so did Popovich most of the time. It just happened that Phil's teams were so great, and so with the superstars they had, that when Phil got the most out of his team, that meant damn near just an automatic championship, right? But and then, but Phil kind of proved himself, I think, when we let him go and then we brought him back. Those 2 years with Kobe and the Kobe, like just a bunch of Lamar and then a bunch of scrubs basically. They made the play. They almost beat Phoenix in 2006. So yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't. I mean, Pop was great and Phil was great, and Belichick. People say about Belichick, not that it matters because it does, but people say, well, he never won without Brady. I think his winning percentage was like 44% without Brady, but that's like a different argument. Like Kellerman was talking to
Yeah,
this Paul about, is he the GOAT? But it has nothing to do with him being first. But of course, he should have been first ballot Hall of Fame. Like Andy Reid. It took. I mean, but see, that's the Andy Reid. It took Mahomes for him to finally get over the hump. But then he had success with every quarterback he had. Belichick can't say that. But of course,
yeah.
like I
And
said,
then what didn't help Belichick is that when Tom Brady went to Tampa, he won the Super Bowl in his first year,
hmm
and Bill Belichick didn't even sniff the playoffs.
right,
You know, so it just it's it's definitely you know it's it's just a bad look for the NFL, honestly.
yeah,
Horrible look, horrible.
yeah, really bad. Do you have any closing remarks?
Any what?
Any closing remarks? I know you got to leave soon.
Um, no, it was good to kind of get your feet wet again and kind of get back into the podcast. Um, so I mean, hopefully this is one of many new episodes to come.
That would be great. I'm tired of doing this podcast by myself. It sucks. All right,
Yeah,
so
man.
yeah,
But I'll let this episode slide, Wilson. But me and you are gonna have to sit down and get our whole royalties and contract going. So let's make sure in the future we don't have any future issues like the Joe Budden podcast or impulsive pod.
yeah,
We want to stay friends. We want to make money, but we also want to stay friends.
yeah. The return of the guy of the big Dave sexual.
The big Bill sexual.
Yeah. All right then. So before we get out of here, just a reminder to hit that subscribe button next to the Complete Podcast Network, and to follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at TC Pod Network. You can also send feedback and mailbag questions to Complete Lakers Podcast at gmail.com. We are out.